You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Chiefs Kingdom, baby. 1-0 to start the season. Feeling good. Welcome to One-on-One, a KC Sports Network podcast. I am your co-host, Mike DeVito, here as always with 9-year NFL veteran and Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champion Jeff Allen. We're bringing you all things Chiefs football from a player's perspective. Always great to talk about this after a win, even more so after the first game of the season, starting with a win that was a statement. I mean, we came out and did like we had been doing all preseason, came out, put it out there in a real game, and boy, did they get after it. It was fun to watch. Big Jeff, we're going to talk about what we're coming up with this short week. I mean, that's really going to be the focus of this episode. We're going to talk about Bosa and Mac and how you prepare for those guys. We're talking about rookies stepping up, talk about Mahomes, all the good stuff. Before we get into that, Cookie Society, everyone, I let you down. And this is a note for you. Everybody ordering the cookies. I made this mistake. I put it in my P.O. box. They don't ship to P.O. boxes.
Make sure you
put your home address in there. I put in the P.O. box, got a text message a couple days later saying, hey, you got to reorder it. So we're going to push off our cookie eating episode till next episode. So forgive me. But Big Jeff, anything new going on Cookie Society other than the awesome stuff?
Nothing new. We're still in the month of September. Like I said last week, that peach cobbler cookie, that is an all-timer right now.
Ooh, is that in the 12-pack?
That's in the September 12-pack and the 6-pack as well. And that's honestly my favorite cookie right now. It may have taken first place for me. So
that'll be the first one we try.
You got to get the peach cobbler this month.
Nice, brother. Make sure, check them out, cookieside.com. Thank you always, Jeff, to our sponsors. We love you guys. All right, Big Jeff, we got after it, man. We were talking about it. We watched Kansas City in the preseason. The starters look sharp. Backups look sharp. Everything was rolling. Always a little bit hesitant. It's the preseason. What's it going to be like when the bullets are really flying and things are live? And boom, they came out there and put the smackdown on them, man. It was just incredible showing and gives a lot of sort of hope. Hope isn't the word for this team, but I mean, it just sort of a little taste of, I think, what's to come this year, which is going to be, it's going to be hard for other teams to play with Kansas City. I mean, this team just is complete across the board.
I'm really excited. I think we've all been waiting all offseason. We've heard the narratives. We talked about Tyreek all offseason, what the Chiefs offense is going to look like. Even with the little glimpses that we had in the preseason games, there still was questions. For them to come out and play the way that they did is unbelievable. And honestly, I think it's really early, and I know this, I wouldn't say it's a hot take, but it's premature, but this might be the best Chiefs offense, just from a balance standpoint. They can run the ball.
Scary?
They can throw the ball to anybody on the field. And Patrick alluded to it heading into the game. He said, fantasy owners, like, you don't know where it's coming from. It's going to be a different guy every single week. And he really means that. There isn't a singular focus or, when I was there, the game plan was, predicated around Tyreek and Travis. And those two guys were getting majority of the targets. And that's how they implemented it throughout the week. I feel like this week the coaches and Patrick and all the players are on the same page saying, like, hey, we're going to draw this thing up, and week to week it's going to be a different guy that we highlight. And we're going to spread it around, and that's tough to stop.
From a defensive perspective, it's hell on wheels because you go in there, when you're preparing for an offense, you get the readout for that week, your scouting report for the week, and there's usually a clear 1 and 2 that you have to take care of. And then everybody else is just sort of average. But if you take care of 1 and 2, you're good to go. When you couple Andy Reid's ability to maximize his players' talents, what they do well, whatever it may be, whatever a given player's sort of attribute, unfair advantage is, his ability to sort of spotlight that player and build and create these plays, construct these plays that highlight that player's talents with someone like Pat Mahomes, who is just so dynamic and so able to scan the whole field. I sent out a tweet, but honestly, this came from you, Jeff, last week, and I think it was so true. This team, the way when you put Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid together, you're better with 5 or 6 good to really good skill players than you are with 2 Hall of Famers and not much else.
Yeah.
Because for the reasons that you're talking about, you as a defense, you just don't know where things are coming from.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I need to tell you about our friends at DraftKings. The wait is over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is officially live in Kansas just in time for football season. That means betting legally on same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, and more anytime and anywhere across the Sunflower State. To celebrate, DraftKings is giving new Kansas customers a can't-miss offer. Bet just $5 on anything and get $200 in free bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code KCSN to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. That's code KCSN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 800-522-4700. Must be 21 years or older. Physically present in Kansas. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus issued as free bets. 1 early win token issued at opt-in. Moneyline bets only. Deposit and wagering restrictions apply. Eligibility terms at DraftKings.com/Kansas on behalf of Boot Hill Resort and Casino. Now, let's get back to the show.
You talked about Coach Reid's ability to call plays and get guys open in his scheme. I think Coach Reid's greatest gift is, his ability to adjust and adapt with the times. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens with the guys that are around him. He's done a really good job of, one, keeping up with the times, but listening to those around him as coaches on the staff, Coach EB. And one of the unsung heroes that might not get talked about during the offseason is Matt Nagy. I know he had a tough time up in Chicago. I'm from Chicago, so I read all the clippings. My friends are giving him hell. And some of it was, warranted, because of his play calling ability. But he's a great creator. And I think sometimes that creativity gets in the way when you don't have the right people around you. I think his creativity paired with Coach EB and Andy Reid and all those guys collaborating, you get a really good product. You're going to see some of those, concepts, some of those things we didn't see in the years past that Nagy's going to bring and add a different layer to this offense. So I'm really excited for that too.
That's a great point. I never even thought about that, but that's a really good point. And I guess from a head coach's from that head coach's position, you talk about Nagy's creativity. It's got to be hard to be creative when you're trying to be the head coach.
Yeah,
you got a whole bunch of stuff you got to worry about, especially you're coming into a place like Chicago where you got to rebuild and everything going on up there. So now you get him back in the building, get him focused, get him doing what he's good at doing. And that's right. That adds more wrinkles to an already dangerous offensive scheme. So great point, Jeff. I wanted to talk about this. This was kind of frustrating to me. KCSN, our whole network, they're going to be covering the games, all the breakdowns. Go check out the other shows. There's so much good stuff on this network. Well, I don't want to get too much into the X's and O's, Jeff, but one thing that pissed me off was, we had 2 guys get hurt because of turf issues. Now, listen, this is $1 billion business, right? This is $1 billion business. There shouldn't be turf issues, right? Like I get sometimes you can't do weather, stuff like that. Figure it out, but you can't have 2 of your guys get hurt. You can't have, regardless of who the team is, you can't have guys getting hurt because the turf is just shit. This is so frustrating, and we lose. Lucky we have Reid who can go in there and kick the way he can. A lot of teams don't have that. But you have McDuffie go down, you have Bucker go down. It's just because of the turf, and Andy Reid talked about this in his press conference. I don't know. I just feel like that just can't happen in $1 billion business like NFL. Am I right, or am I being too sensitive? Maybe, I don't know.
No, you're not being sensitive. This is one of the things that player reps and the PA they have meetings every year about this, and there's stadiums around the league that are poor. I'm talking about, you talk about this being $1 billion industry, and some of these stadiums, the field quality is worse than the high school that's unkept. You have Washington up there; their field is horrible. You got Chicago before the Raiders left Oakland. That was one of the worst fields in the NFL. And to put these guys out there, there's already enough things that we are at risk. It's a dangerous game. We got to worry about a lot of things, but we can control and get those fields up to par and give us a chance to stay healthy. And that's very important. And the league's not doing a good job of collectively coming together and making sure that there's a standard.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And I remember, the best fields I've ever been a part of were I played at the University of Maine, which is an FCS school, Division I AA. Well, we would always go once a year and play an FBS school. So play Mississippi State or Boston College or something like that. Jeff, you played Division I. I mean, the fields I was just like, wow, how Beautiful. In the world did they keep this like this? But I say that to say it's obviously doable, but geez, come on, NFL, you got to do it. Talk, like you said, you harp on player safety all the time. That's an easy fix. Get the fields right. I mean, whatever it takes, get them right. So yeah, what are your thoughts going into this game, specifically with those two guys hurt, right? So you got McDuffie hurt, so you got a key cornerback position down, and obviously Butker, having him down, he's not down. I don't think he's down. I think he's going to kick, but obviously he's got a swollen ankle. Yeah. I mean, you worried at all about either of those two positions going into this game?
I'm not worried about it. I think, especially with Keenan Allen being out, that's clearly their number one over there. Mike Williams is still there. But we have capable guys. I like the rookie Watson. He did a good job last week. And I think this only helps us in the future. I mean, these guys are getting, reps under their belt. It sucks for McDuffie because he's a young guy too, but he played spectacular, man. You didn't hear his name at all. It's been really quiet about him, even during preseason. He's just doing so well that you forget that he's a rookie. So I hope that he gets healthy, and I'm excited to see what he does later. But I'm not too worried about it on the defensive side of the ball. As far as kicking, obviously offensively, we might do some different things. We might go for it down on low red. And not put Butker at risk. Maybe they bring a kicker in and give him a week off. Who knows? But I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah. No, it's really amazing having Reed. I mean, that's incredible what he was able to do. That was really incredible. Yeah, I know from a defensive line perspective, anytime we had a cornerback hurt, they were always big. One thing, the message was clear, like, listen, you got to get pressure. If you want to help those young guys at the back end, you got to get pressure. And it'd be best if we can get pressure with just 4, because now we got a young guy back there. We want to make sure he's all right. We're going to drop more guys into coverage. You guys up front, you got to get home, got to get pressure. That'll really ease things up on the back end, especially at the beginning of the game, to get him settled in.
And they're going to do it. I mean, Karlaftis, Dana, Chris Jones, those guys combined for 18 pressures week 1. Those 3 guys, 6 apiece. I mean, they were hunting. So I'm excited to see what they do. And I don't think San Diego has a great – I'm sorry, San Diego.
No, they're San Diego.
They're
San Diego.
The Chargers, the LA Chargers have a great O-line. They do have a hell of a quarterback, but I think there's opportunity there. And guys will break that down on other shows, but I think we got a pretty good chance to get out to Herbert.
You don't want a bad O-line with 95 lined up in there.
At all.
You don't want that. All right, so going into this week, you bring up the Chargers. The one thing I really wanted to talk to you about, when you look at LA and what they have for weapons, sort of, you talk about Herbert, but those 2 outside rushers, right? Khalil Mack and Bosa. I was really curious from your perspective. Mack had 3 sacks last week or something?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
he had 3 sacks.
Killer, absolutely killer. So obviously he's rip roaring. I mean, he hasn't aged. So from an offensive line perspective, you got this short week. You got to prepare for 2, what Rex Ryan used to call bitch kitties. You got 2 bitch kitties on the edge. How do you do it, Jeff? What is the room like? Because we're obviously on a short week. We're not going out there in pads. We got one long day that consists of 1 practice on Tuesday, and that's it for the week. So as an offensive line, what is this like? How do you prepare for these 2 guys?
Man, it's going to be tough. Those guys are all world. 2 of the best to ever do it. But I would be way more concerned if we didn't have Andy Reid or a great coaching staff. These guys are going to figure out a way to get the ball out quick. They're not going to put Pat in danger. There's going to be a lot of screens, a lot of quick game. Mm-hmm. They're going to run the ball, especially being a short week. This is going to be a physical, knock them out, drag it type game. Right. I know we don't run the ball a lot, but I feel like this game might be the one where we run it more than we do the whole entire season. It reminds me of that time we played Buffalo a few years back. Yeah, I think we ran the ball. It was because of weather, but this time it's going to be because of a short week. I think we're going to run the ball more than we throw it.
Right. And teams, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but I feel like because of the trend of the NFL becoming more and more and more pass oriented, teams aren't really built to stop the run. I
Yeah,
mean, we had that rough stretch with Kansas City last year at the beginning of the year. And the one thing that uh, was, really difficult to get stopped was stopping the run. Even with those good players in there, you could just see they were so used to getting off the football and rushing the passer that when it came time to hunker down and stop the run, it just wasn't something that they had spent much time focusing on.
yeah,
So that's a really good point, man. You come out there, run the football, run the football, screens, trap plays, things that are going to slow that front up. Get that out there right away. That can really help. Plus, you got you got all those Pro Bowlers on the offensive line anyway.
yeah,
So
yeah. And I'm hoping Trey Smith. I saw him practice limited today. I'm hoping he gets healthy and he's able to play. If not, don't rush him. Don't make him get out there
don't rush.
Don't rush him. But definitely would love to see him back.
What does he have again?
I think it's ankle. So
I was going to say. So I thought it was an ankle. What is that like at that guard position with ankles? I feel like if there's anywhere you can sort of suck it up and get away with it, it's
inside.
in there. Yeah,
It's definitely inside a guard because when I first started playing guard, this is a quick story. I played tackle my entire career in college.
Yeah.
I get to the NFL and I'm playing guard, and it's a much more condensed, slow down game. I was going in there being an athlete, and I can remember the coach told me, "Don't be an athlete. Do not be whatever you do. Don't be an athlete. Be quick, but not in a hurry. Keep your feet in the ground, small, short steps, and everything happens right now." That's a big difference than playing out on the edge at tackle where you got to be a little athletic. So I'd be worried if it was an ankle out there, left tackle or right tackle, but inside you can compensate and get away with it.
Right. You got guys helping you. You can spread out a little bit. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, no, but still, I'm with you. Don't rush him. We need that big boy for the whole year, man. He's killing people up front. Okay, before we get out of here, quick week. We're gonna have a quick episode. Before we get out of here, two things I wanted to finish on. The first thing was this, and you had brought this up before, and I think it's a good thing to harp on. Mahomes, for some reason, and maybe this is the same thing it was when Tom Brady was with New England. I remember you just hated them because they were so good that you gave them hell all the time. But Mahomes, year after year, seems like he gets a ton of criticism. And it seems like there's I don't know, it's almost like the media, the analysts almost have it out for him. I mean, talk to me about sort of the disrespect that he gets and how he continues to persevere through that.
Well, it's tough because, he hit the scene so fast and came out of nowhere for a lot of people. Even myself, I didn't know too much about Patrick, coming out of college, and he just burst onto the scene with 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and they crowned him immediately. He's the best in the league. Never seen anything like him.
Right.
Even when there was guys like Aaron Rodgers that kind of did similar things before, and that kind of rubbed some guys the wrong way. And he continued that trajectory. I mean, he's been a 4 straight FC Championship games. Already has a Super Bowl MVP. He's done it year in and year out, and he's actually the best guy now. But they're looking at it from like, this guy's been crowned and he didn't really earn it. And I'm like, this makes absolutely no sense. They're crowning Josh Allen, who hasn't done jack squat yet. He's a hell of a player, has the potential to do great things, but they're looking for every reason not to crown him anymore. And I'm trying to figure it out. I've come up with my, assumptions and my thoughts behind it, but it's very confusing.
Yeah, no doubt. And, we'll talk about him persevering through that because it doesn't seem to faze him. And I think one thing is the reality of it is he's just good. I mean, I don't think that, it's hard to be fazed when you're good. But I was listening to Andy Reid in his press conference, and he was talking about how Mahomes just loves football. Like, this is a guy that loves the game of football. And he was talking about the other quarterbacks that he had been blessed to play with, the Brett Favres and Alex Smith and everybody in between there. And he said the one thing that was consistent with all of them was they love the game. And so he talked about how Pat, because he loves the game, he really prioritizes that, right? It's really family and football. That's his priority. And so, you see Mahomes, he's on all these different commercials, what is it, State Farm? I mean, he did a million different commercials, a billion different things that he's doing. I'm sure he gets all kinds of requests to be everywhere. And yet, Andy Reid says, regardless of all that, football is always going to come first for him. He said, I'm never going to have to worry about Mahomes, putting this other stuff first. It's always going to be football first. And, when you love the game that much, and that's how you approach it, that's what life is like for you, is it that it's priority number one? The noise is the noise, but
Yeah.
it's the game. It's for the love of the game that you do what you do. And I think that's one of the things that keeps him going, is just that intentionality, that discipline, and that love for football.
And I think the cool thing about Pat and being able to be around him is he doesn't care. He doesn't care if you think he's the best. He doesn't care if you crown him. He actually wants it the opposite way, because he's ultra competitive.
Right.
He'll say he's fighting to be number one. Even if he's number one, he's fighting to be number one every day, even if he's at the top. And he's going to find a way to feel like he's slighted. Right. It's almost like you saw the Last Dance with Michael Jordan. It's the same type of mentality of always trying to find that chip. Find guys that doubt you. Use it as fuel. And that's Patrick. He doesn't want to lose. He always wants to win. And he needs that doubt because it's fuel for him.
That's dangerous. All right, Big Jeff, before we head out of here, I want to finish with this. You got Pro Football Focus, right? This is considered by many, if not most, to be one of the most accurate grading platforms when it comes to evaluating players in the NFL. And these guys really put out a ton of information, the analytics that they have, all the stuff that they do. And there's a number of different companies that have popped up that have mimicked this approach. And it's really interesting, because now you're getting, not only are you getting, you can get the all 22 tape. I mean, you can get the tape that the players watch, but now you're getting grades of players in the similar way that a coach would grade a player. So the fans have a ton of access. What do you think of Pro Football Focus and not just them specifically, but all of these platforms?
All these things.
Yeah.
I guess before I rip them or say anything bad about them, I'll talk about what's good about it. I think it's really cool because it's getting a lot of cool data. It's getting those statistics that we weren't even thinking about from a football standpoint. Yeah. And teams are actually using this, and when they evaluate guys in free agency, and even when they're scouting the opponent, or even in-house, they're using some of this data. I think where it kind of falls short and the inconsistency is the grading scale, and what is a plus and what is a minus, and how do they come to that conclusion? Because you don't know the ins and out of everyone's offense or defense. You don't know the responsibility of it. You do have the basis of football and the fundamentals of it and kind of the schematics of it, but you don't know exactly for a fact, why that guy did what he did. You can obviously see the blatant mistakes where guys get beat physically. Right. There's some nuances within the game mentally that it's unfair to judge a guy or give him a grade on some plays without all of the evidence or knowledge behind that play. So I think they fall short on that, and it's really confusing. I mean, a lot of Chiefs fans were in uproar because this week they gave Patrick the 8th best grade for a quarterback.
Really?
Yeah, he was rated number 8 after week 1, throwing 5 touchdowns, 360 yards. I think he was right above who was it? It was a quarterback that lost. Davis Mills, they tied from the Texans, and Josh Allen, who had less total yards, 2 turnovers, was graded a 91 elite as the number 1 quarterback. And I'm like, okay, our eyes told us and what we saw that Patrick was the best quarterback in the league week 1. And why in the hell is he rated number 8? And I don't know, but I'm sure they can explain a little bit more on what their system is and why they graded a certain way and what's a turnover-worthy play versus a turnover. I don't know. But it doesn't add up. The math isn't mathing. So
I know. Do they factor in? I wonder if they factor in who they're playing, the level of
they factor in competition. Do they factor in the difficulty of the throw, the distance? I'm sure there's a ton of things, and there's a reason behind it.
Right.
And they have their formula, but it doesn't make fucking sense.
I think you would rather have Mahomes than anybody else last week. But
definitely.
Yeah, the one thing that I've noticed with not Pro Football Focus, but just sort of evaluating teams, I think the most difficult position to do is the secondary. There is so much crazy stuff going on back there, and people switching out and swapping and coverage changes and calls being made. And I've always been I don't know how you could possibly grade a secondary. Obviously, you have the sort of basic whatever coverage is, and they stay in that coverage and whatever. But man, there's usually so much going on throughout, all the different teams. I mean, coverages are, because you want to disguise coverages, you want to change up. You're constantly trying to mess up quarterbacks. That's where you're doing it in the back end. So I've always been hesitant and skeptical of hard grades when it came to the secondary, because it's like, man, I've been in locker rooms and in defensive meetings where they're laying out the cornerback plays and everything they're responsible for back then. I'm like, damn, I'm in the room and I don't know what the hell they're doing. So
yeah, it's tough, man. And just like you alluded to, it's impossible to fairly grade a guy, especially the position like that or O-line, where it's a group effort.
Right.
You guys have to really come together, especially on the back end or up front, in order to get the job done. Or it could be something as simple as, the tight end wasn't on the same page or the running back wasn't on the same page, or the quarterback actually ID'd it over here, and you on film look at it and say that was the O-line's fault. You have no clue. So it's just, for as much good as they do equally amount.
Yeah. It reminded me, remember last year we were talking about Orlando Brown Jr., his set compared to, how many steps Mahomes would drop back. And so it's like, well, who's actually wrong there? Should Mahomes, because we saw the sack and you want to blame Brown, but who was like, did Mahomes take too many steps?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or how can you grade that?
Everything is with context. I mean, I don't know if you watched the game last night with the Seahawks and the Broncos, but Bradley Chubb got a sack on Geno Smith, and the tackle actually did an excellent job. And Troy Aikman, thankfully, usually I don't agree with him, but he called it out. Geno should have stepped up. But the general public, if he didn't say that, would have blamed that on the offensive lineman.
Right. Yeah. So be wary of that. But regardless, here we go. We got the Chargers coming up. What are we, 2 days away now, baby? We got football.
2 days away. Let's go.
Football right around the corner, Big Jeff. Chiefs Kingdom, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week to recap another win, eat some cookies, and talk some more Chiefs football. Jeff, love you, brother. Thanks again for everything. And Chiefs Kingdom, we'll see you next week.
Go Chiefs. Beat the San Diego LA Chargers.
There you go, brother.